Mall. Now, we have an expansive list of stories for you to cover. Of course, we will touch upon what's coming out from the war front. It is the 43rd day of that conflict in West Asia between Israel and Hamas. Moreover, we'll also touch upon some climate change stories as well. Plastic is becoming a big issue in Kenya, and in Iceland, a potential volcanic eruption has certainly thrown life out of gear. This, even as in terms of top international global updates, the maker of ChatGPT, OpenAI, its CEO, Sam Altman, he's been ousted. Why? Well, all that's coming up next. But first and foremost, we're going to bring our focus and bring your attention towards what's happening in Uttarkashi vis-a-vis that tunnel collapse. An update coming from Uttarkashi, where rescuers are working tirelessly to reach the 40 trapped workers in Uttarkashi, but the workers have faced a major setback. The drilling operation was paused due to a sudden cracking sound and machine trouble as well. The idea is that through the rubble and through the debris, some 5 different metal pipes are going to be pushed through which the trapped workers can then come out. Meanwhile, in the process, after the 4th pipe was being drilled in, pushed into the debris, the drilling machine sort of started giving way. It started subsiding inside the ground. Now, officials are fearing a potential collapse as well, which is why the drilling process was suspended. It's the 7th day of this rescue operation. Now, the rescue workers and officials are anticipating the arrival of a second digging machine today. That's going to be of grave significance. Also, the Disaster Management Office has updated the number of people that are trapped in this tunnel to 41 and have assured the safety of all the workers trapped. Meanwhile, here's a quick update on the ongoing rescue efforts on day 7. Rescuers are awaiting a drilling machine on the 7th day. This even as rescuers have drilled 24 meters into the Silkyara tunnel, inching ever so closer to the trapped workers. Now, workers inside have essential resources. They're communicating via walkie-talkies, even as the families anxiously await for more updates. On the other hand, the Odisha government has been in touch with officials and the local authorities on the ground. They're coordinating the safe rescue of the 5 trapped workers from the state of Odisha. Now, the rescue plan involves inserting steel pipes into the rubble, like I mentioned before. The 5th pipe, that process is underway, but it was suspended. The American auger machine is the one that is going to replace the previous equipment for better penetration and drilling as well. Now, there's a plan A, B, but there's a plan C also at play. It involves digging another tunnel leading to where the workers are essentially trapped. But more so, it seems like plan C is not going to be used. Around-the-clock rescue involves about 165 personnel from various agencies at the mouth of the Silkyara tunnel, the visuals that you can see on your screen as well. Meanwhile, a C-17 aircraft has airlift crucial equipment for the operation from Indore and bringing all of that relief and resource equipment to Dehradun is the latest details that we're picking up. And shifting our focus here, the air quality in the national capital improved marginally to the very poor category from the severe category this morning. The overall air quality index in the capital dropped from 461 at 7 a.m. on Friday to 398 this morning on Saturday, settling in the very poor category. However, the downward shift in the air quality index was of little respite to residents as the dense toxic haze continued to shroud the city. People are finding it difficult to breathe. Senior citizens and children are especially at the receiving end of the prevailing foul air in the city, especially the national capital. According to the System of Air Quality and Weather Forecasting and Research, SAFAR, the air quality index at Ghazipur was recorded at 398 at 7:15 a.m. today. Delhi Environment Minister Gopal Rai on Friday sought the centre's intervention in reversing the city's declining air quality. This situation is persisting in all of North India. Besides Delhi, about 12 districts of neighbouring Haryana are recording air quality in the severe range. There are 14 locations in the state of Rajasthan as well, where the air quality has deteriorated. Meanwhile, a 6-member special task force has been formed under the leadership of the Environment Special Secretary for proper implementation and monitoring of the GRAP rules. Let's not forget, Crackers were burst in the national capital and other cities on Diwali, despite alarming pollution levels and the Supreme Court's ban on fireworks during the festivities.
कंडीशन तो बहुत ख़राब लग रही है। इवन मुझे बचपन से सांस लेने की दिक्कत है थोड़ी सी, तो पोल्यूशन ने तो काफ़ी मेरी हालत ख़राब करी है। बट स्टिल हम लोग साइकिल चलाने आ गए फॉर द व्यू। प्रॉब्लम सर, एक तो सबसे पहले विजिबिलिटी, प्लस ऊपर से सांस लेने की दिक्कत है, तो आई जस्ट कांट गो आउट ऑफ माई हाउस रियली। और सबसे बड़ी बात है कि मेरा छोटा भाई भी है, आई थिंक उसको भी बाहर जाना एकदम मना ही है, तो ये मेजर दिक्कत है।
पॉल्यूशन काफ़ी ज़्यादा है, इतना एक्सपेक्टेड नहीं था, बट ठीक है, पहले से बहुत कम भी है, बट हमें बारिश की काफ़ी ज़रूरत है दिल्ली में।
Next up, some political developments from down south. The BJP in Karnataka has announced R. Ashoka as the leader of opposition in the state assembly. The announcement comes after a delay of over 6 months. Let's not forget that. The decision was made after party observers held a one-to-one meeting with a few legislators at a private hotel in Bengaluru. The Bharatiya Janata Party is yet to decide upon a leader of opposition in the Legislative Council as well. R. Ashoka, the man on your screens, is a 7-time MLA and also held the post of Deputy Chief Minister in the past. In the previous Bommai cabinet, he was also the Revenue Minister. Now, Ashoka's name was proposed by former Chief Minister Basavaraj Bommai and seconded by former Minister V. Sunil Kumar. R. Ashoka is also seen as belonging to the camp to former Chief Minister and senior leader B.S. Yediyurappa. Ashoka's bagging the post of leader of opposition once again reaffirms Yediyurappa's hold over the party in Karnataka after his son B.Y. Vijendra was appointed as the state chief of the party, and now Ashoka, well, he's been made the leader of opposition. R. Ashoka also belongs to the Vocaliga community, and his appointment shows that the BJP is trying to maintain a balance between the two dominant communities in Karnataka, that is the Lingayats and the Vocaligas. Lingayat strongman B.S. Yediyurappa, his son, now the party president in the state, and Vocaliga strongman R. Ashoka, now the leader of opposition in Karnataka.
So our party, Narendra Modi ji, Amit Shah ji, Nadda ji, our General Secretary Santosh ji, and all our MLAs, today they elected as the opposition leader of Karnataka Assembly. I thanks my central leaders and all our MLAs, Mr. Yediyurappa ji and Bommai ji, all our party workers who supported me. My task is Mr. Vijendra also with both coming election, parliament election, another 5-6 months, the parliament election is there. You have to give good result. Last time we have won out of 28, 25. This time you have a target. Out of 28, 28 will win. Because the JDS also joined NDA partner. So this also helps to us. So I elected as a opposition leader. I will promise the people of Karnataka, from last 6 months, the Congress government is not seeing any farmers, any poor people. They are infighting between Siddaramaiah and D.K. Kumar for the CM post. Already MLA selected CM Siddaramaiah, but D.K. Kumar MLAs gang, 2 gangs, they are telling no, D.K. Kumar will be chief minister another 2 years or 3 years. That is the slogan. In one part, Siddaramaiah gang is speaking about another 5 years Siddaramaiah will be. That is the quarrel between in the Congress, in fight. So they are not seeing the people of Karnataka. All our free gift has gone out. They are not even reached 30-40% for the free gift. So up to now, the financial status in Karnataka, they collapse. There is no money in treasury, in Karnataka treasury. Because flood in the flood situation, when I was the revenue minister, we given double for hectare 12,000 rupees. We given 24,000. Now the drought is all over the Karnataka. Even not a government given any farmers to, not a single NP. Single NP. That is the financial state of the status in the Karnataka.
The following content may contain visuals that are disturbing, graphic, or sensitive in nature. Viewer discretion is advised. This material is intended for mature audiences and may not be suitable for all viewers. Please exercise caution while watching, and if you find such content distressing, we recommend discontinuing viewing. This disclaimer is provided to ensure awareness and to prioritize viewer well-being. The war between Israel and Hamas has entered the 43rd day. There is no end to the fighting. Various diplomatic quarters have been pushing for humanitarian ceasefire, but the death toll and the bombardment across the besieged Gaza Strip continues. Let's take a look at the top developments from the war front. At least 12,000 Palestinians, including 5,000 children, have been killed in Israeli strikes on Gaza, according to Hamas officials. Over 5,000 children have been killed in Gaza, as per the Gazan Health Ministry. Meanwhile, 1.5 million Palestinians have been displaced inside the Gaza Strip. A first consignment of fuel has entered Gaza after Israel bowed to United States' pressure for limited deliveries to allow wastewater treatment and resumption of communications after a two-day blackout. The IDF says Israeli troops will advance to anywhere Hamas exists, including the southern part of the Gaza Strip. This even as Gaza's main telecos and companies Paltel and Javal have confirmed the partial restoration of telecom services in various parts of Gaza. An Israeli attack in Khan Yunis has killed 26, according to recent reports that are coming out of the southern part of the Gaza Strip. Now, like I mentioned before, trucks carrying fuel have entered Gaza after the Israeli administration agreed to allow 2 fuel trucks a day into Gaza amid the heavy fighting. An official belonging to the Israeli administration said that the move was intended to enable the minimal maintenance necessary for water, sewer, and sanitary systems. Our next report tells you more. Take a look.
Israel has agreed to allow daily fuel deliveries through its blockade of Gaza for humanitarian purposes after a request from its chief ally, Washington. That's according to officials in both governments who spoke to Reuters anonymously. Separately, the Israeli Defense Ministry announced Friday that there would be no limits on aid shipments from the United Nations, a possible signal that Israel is bowing to some international pressure over the conditions in the war for civilians. These were Palestinians trying to get food in Khan Yunis, near the border with Egypt, where foreign aid is supposed to transit through. The United Nations warns that starvation has become a, quote, immediate possibility, and that it had to suspend aid shipments for at least 2 days due to lack of fuel. This woman is saying, "What's happened to us? There's no water, no electricity. We're sleeping on the floor and our children are suffering." Trash and raw sewage are everywhere. The Israeli officials said the fuel deliveries would be mostly to meet the needs of United Nations aid workers, but that minimal supplies would go to sewage and sanitary systems. The American official said some fuel would also go to powering cell phone networks that have been forced to run on generators.
Meanwhile, the Israeli army released footage of what it said are shoulder-fired missiles, mortar shells and weapons located inside a kindergarten in Gaza. According to the caption provided by the army in its Telegram post, its troops located quote-unquote dozens of mortar shells that were hidden by Hamas in a kindergarten in the northern Gaza Strip. Earlier this week, at Gaza's biggest hospital, Al-Shifa, Israel said its forces had found in 2 days of searching a vehicle with a large number of weapons and an underground structure that it called was a Hamas tunnel shaft.
בתוך גן הילדים. הנה, יש לנו פה גן ילדים. כמה יש להם? 16 זה הקלה. חלק מהגן ילדים.
Meanwhile, in the Shifa hospital complex, IDF troops discovered a hidden booby-trapped vehicle with a bunch of weapons inside, such as AK-47s, RPGs, sniper rifles, grenades, and other explosives.
Okay, we are here in the city of Gaza, in the heart of the city of Gaza, in Shifa Hospital, and this is what Hamas is trying to hide from you. We found a vehicle filled with ammunition, RPGs, AK-47s. We see handcuffs, knives, preparation for taking hostages from Israel on the attack of October 7th. As you can see, they were very well prepared, and where they're hiding all of this equipment is in a hospital, a place that's supposed to be for humanitarian aid. They have all this evil hidden here. As we can see, we are in the heart of the hospital. And this is where they choose to hide everything, because they know the IDF won't attack, the Air Force won't attack here. So they use the hospital as human shields.
Moving on, the Israeli Defense Forces claim that they found a number of Hamas terrorist infrastructures within the premises of the Al-Shifa hospital. Take a look at this. Now, the IDF claims that Hamas has an underground complex near the reception area, particularly the reception area of the Al-Shifa hospital. The IDF says Hamas has a command and control center in the OPD building of the Al-Shifa complex. Meanwhile, IDF also reports that Hamas has an underground complex in chest and dialysis department building of the Al-Shifa complex. It further reports that Hamas has an underground complex in the internal staff building inside the Al-Shifa complex as well. The picture of Al-Shifa as put out by the Israeli Defense Forces on your screens as well. Well, now the United Nations is looking for ways to evacuate Al-Shifa hospital in Gaza, but options are limited by security and logistical constraints. The World Health Organization observed that there were still about 600 patients, including 27 in critical condition at the Al-Shifa hospital, which Israeli forces entered this week following days-long siege.
So we are looking at options for full medical evacuation, but there are a lot of security concerns. There are a lot of logistics constraints. Our options are rather limited, but we hope to have some better news in the next 24 hours. Firstly, you need to secure security guarantees and safe passage for any convoy. Negotiations with the Israeli Defense Forces are being managed through the UN offices. Then we have to prioritize the patients who would be moved first. So we'd be looking at the most critically ill, and again, those neonates. So we're going to be working with the doctors and nurses in the hospital to do that prioritization and come up with a list and make sure that they have companions, that parents travel with the neonates. But that's been a difficult exercise because our communications with the hospital is cut off most of the time. The third issue, of course, is just the lack of fuel. And so the Palestinian Red Crescent Society says right now of the 25 ambulances they haven't had sufficient fuel to move north.
Now, the October 7th attack on southern Israel by Hamas left the whole world in shock with the sheer brutality and the horrific nature of the incident. Jamal Waraki, an Arab Muslim volunteer paramedic, was one of the first to arrive at Kibbutz Be'eri in southern Israel after the Hamas's attack. Over a month later, he is still shaken to recall the brutality of what he saw.
Jamal Waraki, an Arab Muslim volunteer paramedic, was one of the first to arrive at Kibbutz Be'eri in southern Israel after the Hamas attack on October 7. He witnessed the killing of civilians in the kibbutz, which bore the brunt of the slaughter. Over a month later, he's still shaken to recall the brutality of what he saw.
That has nothing to do with Islam. Our religion, as a proud Arabic Muslim Israeli guy, I'm saying that has nothing to do with our religion.
Israeli officials say at least 1,300 people were killed, mostly civilians. The surviving residents were evacuated, and Israel launched a retaliatory bombardment and ground offensive against Hamas in Gaza that has killed more than 11,500 people.
When we first got into the kibbutz, the first one was Be'eri. I never thought that it could be a real thing. I thought in a while I thought that I'm dreaming, or I'm being in a kind of a film zone or such a thing. So I saw everything destroyed, a lot of houses burned, people who were slaughtered and killed in their houses, and afterwards the house will be lit on fire. When you see such a thing, you just think about you just start imagine what happens in there. How did they react? Who got killed first, the kids or the parents?
Waraki says Hamas did not spare Muslim in the attack. He recalls tending to 2 Arab women in hijab and 3 Arab bus drivers from East Jerusalem, all shot by the assailants. Reuters couldn't verify his account.
That means that they're not doing this for the country or for religion, they're just doing this for the hatred.
Waraki is still hopeful that Jews, Arabs, Christians and Muslims can learn to live together in Israel. There is no other way ahead, he says.
Of course, we need to live to each other. It's not a question, it's a need to. I think Israel learned today how to die together. Now it's time to learn how to live together. That's what I believe. Listen, Jews, Arabs, Christians, Muslims, we are all the same. Israel is a big whole body, and every one of us is one part of this body. If one of these parts is missing, the body won't be doing his job as it's supposed to. So I think that we have to take care of this, and we have to stop hatreds and start living together.
But even as Jamal Waraki still reels with the trauma of what he saw in kibbutz on the 7th of October, the ripple effect of this conflict in West Asia is being felt in far-flung areas as well. Take a look at what's happening in the United States. Protesters gathered at the Ann Arbor in Michigan in the United States to protest against the war going on in Gaza. Protesters could be seen waving flags and raising pro-Palestinian slogans inside the university building.
United will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated.
They could be heard chanting slogans like, "The people united will never be defeated." Police vehicles were also at the spot to keep a check on the protesters and prevent any untoward incident. The United States has seen a wave of protests in several cities in support of the Palestinians ever since the war began. On the contrary, US has also witnessed several pro-Israel protest marches in the country as well.
United will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated. We charge you with genocide. We charge you with genocide. Oh no, you can't hide. Oh no, you can't hide. We charge you with genocide. We charge you with genocide.
And it's not just the United States, Europe, Asia, Southeast Asia, you name it. Take a look at this. A group of activists took to the streets in South Korea's capital, Seoul, calling for a ceasefire in the Israel Hamas war. The activists put on display about 2,000 pair of shoes on the streets of downtown Seoul, symbolizing the Palestinian victims killed in the ongoing war. Activists hoisted signs calling for a ceasefire in Gaza and could also be heard chanting slogans like "Free Palestinians."
모든 희생자들을 생각하며 독려하도록 하겠습니다. 이스라엘의 죽과 주전에 응하라. 팔레스타인의 자유를. Free, free Palestine. Free, free Palestine. 저희 일어날게요. Palestine. Free.
Well, next up, shifting our focus to the top international updates, and there's one thing that we must talk about as well, and that is Sam Altman. Sam Altman is out as the CEO of OpenAI. He and OpenAI's wildly popular bot ChatGPT have become some of the most recognizable symbols of the generative AI craze over the past year. Now, the company says that the board lost confidence in Sam Altman's ability to lead. It found that he was, quote unquote, not consistently candid in his communications and, well, he could not lead as it hindered its work.
I now am wrapping up the trip feeling quite optimistic.
Sam Altman is out as the CEO of OpenAI. He and OpenAI's wildly popular bot, ChatGPT, have become some of the most recognizable symbols of the generative AI craze over the past year. The company says the board lost confidence in Altman's ability to lead. It found he was, quote, not consistently candid in his communications, and says that hindered its work. The abrupt shuffle sent shockwaves across the tech industry and came as a surprise for many employees. ChatGPT came out last November. Backed by billions of dollars from Microsoft, it quickly became one of the world's fastest growing applications. It can spit out human-like content by training on heaps of data. The company says OpenAI's chief technology officer, Mira Murati, will serve as interim boss while it searches for a permanent CEO. On social media, Altman said he loved his time at OpenAI and hoped it was transformative for the world.
And Sam Altman's ouster, is it the perfect segue or not? Well, you decide. Meanwhile, the artificial intelligence revolution is here and is impacting all aspects of our lives. Who can say no to that? From Hollywood celebrities figuring out how to live with bots to a chat with virtual celebrities. Our next report brings you the week's big stories from the world of AI revolution.
From actors making peace with bots to why Google wants you to talk to a virtual version of Billie Eilish, this is Generation AI. The Hollywood actors' strike came to an end, with AI among the last issues to be hammered out. Union chief negotiator Duncan Crabtree Ireland hailed the deal.
And for the first time, consent, informed consent, and fair compensation guardrails will be in place around the use of artificial intelligence in our industry.
Among other measures, studios will now have to get an actor's consent before using their image to create a digital replica. NVIDIA has upgraded its flagship AI chip. It's called the H200 and will roll out next year to customers, including Amazon. NVIDIA already dominates the market for AI chips, and its new model will allow services such as ChatGPT to spit out answers even faster. Reuters sources say Google is in talks to invest hundreds of millions of dollars in character AI. The fast-growing chatbot startup allows people to talk with virtual versions of anime characters and celebrities like Billie Eilish. Most of its traffic is coming from users between the ages of 18 and 24, according to data from SimilarWeb. Facebook parent Meta says advertisers will soon have to disclose when AI has been used to alter or create messages related to politics. They'll have to say if the ads portray real people as doing or saying something they didn't. The new rules kick in next year. And ChatGPT creator OpenAI says it wants to work with other organizations to produce datasets to train AI models. It's looking for deals to access material that expresses human intentions in any language. The aim is to produce more nuanced training data that's more conversational in style.
We brought you a full-blown segment on the Israel-Hamas war, but let's not forget that Ukraine and Russia are still at loggerheads. War-torn Ukraine has started building underground schools in the Kharkiv region, which will allow children to return to in-person learning. This while the region faces constant threat of Russian airstrikes.
Ukraine's Kharkiv region has started building underground schools. The heavily fortified structures will allow children to return to in-person learning, while the region faces the constant threat of Russian airstrikes. Schools in the eastern region, which borders Russia, had to resort to online learning after the February 2022 invasion. Kharkiv is frequently targeted by Russian missiles, drones and artillery. The governor reported on Thursday that in 24 hours, 3 different districts had been struck. The chief district architect, Anton Korotovsky, said 2 schools are currently under construction.
Вони можуть витримувати пряме влучання ракет С-300. Також розраховані десь на 500 чоловік кожна. Також вони будуть обладнані.
The structures could withstand direct hits from S-300 missiles. They are designed to accommodate up to 500 people each. They will also be adapted to be accessible for people with physical disabilities. There will be restrooms, independent power sources, diesel generators, water supply, sewage, and everything required for the education process.
He added that more of these schools, which act as bomb shelters, will be planned by the end of the year. The buildings will be equipped with necessities like ventilation, water and beds so people can stay there for more than one day. Ukrainians are now bracing for another winter of possible Russian airstrikes targeting critical infrastructure. Last year, this caused widespread blackouts across the country.
Problems and setbacks on both sides of the Russian-Ukraine divide. Millions of Russian families are having to cut back due to the significant changes forced on Russia's economy by the war in Ukraine and the myriad sanctions imposed by the West.
In grocery stores across Russia, prices have been soaring. Families are having to cut back as they grapple with high inflation caused by the war in Ukraine and a myriad of sanctions imposed by the West. Mother of 2, Daria Stepanova, is among them.
One of my kids is 5. Another one is a newborn. And I can see how much everything has become more expensive in the course of these 5 years. Pampers are 2 to 3 times more expensive now. Baby food is now 4 times more expensive.
She's trying to make ends meet on the 50,000 rubles, about $550 a month, that her husband earns. The ruble has fallen against the US dollar since the war began in February 2022, making the price of imported goods climb. And all this comes ahead of the 2024 election, where Vladimir Putin is expected to run again, in a move that would keep him in power until at least 2030. Official statistics show that over 15 million Russians are living below the poverty line. Russian economist Igor Lipitz says the situation is even worse than what the Kremlin reports. He estimates about 20 million people could be in or on the verge of poverty.
The indirect indicator of the situation with the income is the level of high debt ratio that is always discussed again if you take statistics of the Bank of Russia. It's all seen there, how many Russians have 2 or 3 loans, how many families spend not only 50% but around 80% of their monthly income. There are Russian regions where people have to give away 105% of their monthly income. 105. This is what real people's incomes are and how deep in poverty the Russian population lives. Russians are in deep trouble.
Some economists think the ruble could fall even further after the election.
Meanwhile, Finland has started erecting barriers at 4 of the 9 border crossings with Russia in a bid to stop the inflow of illegal immigrants. Finland administration says the rising flow of migrants has been orchestrated by Moscow in revenge for Finland's defense cooperation with the United States.
Finland will erect barriers at 4 of its 9 border crossings with Russia from midnight on Friday. It wants to stem an increase in migrants that Helsinki says have been orchestrated by Moscow in revenge for Finland's defense cooperation with the United States. Here's Finland's Interior Minister, Mari Rantanen, speaking on Thursday.
It's clear that Russian authorities have facilitated people in crossing the border from Russia to Finland. It's possible that this form of illegal entry that we are now experiencing could grow and intensify quickly and significantly. It's already putting a strain on Finnish authorities.
Helsinki angered Moscow when it joined the NATO military alliance in April, after decades of non-alignment following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The Kremlin denies Finland's accusations, with the TASS news agency reporting spokesman Dmitry Peskov had said the country was making a big mistake by choosing a path of confrontation. Also speaking on Thursday, Finnish Foreign Minister Elina Valtonen.
Finland's eastern border is also the external border of the Schengen area, the European Union, and of NATO. Finland is well prepared to counter any type of hybrid operations together with our partners and allies. We hope the pressure will ease soon, and we can reopen the border crossings, which are essential for many families, diplomats, and the transfer of necessary goods. Thank you.
According to the border guard, some 300 asylum seekers, mostly from Iraq, Yemen, Somalia and Syria, arrived in Finland this week. According to officials, nearly 100 had entered the country from Russia by midday on Friday alone. But from Saturday, asylum seekers arriving via Russia will only be allowed to hand in their applications at 2 northern border crossings. Finland shares an 830-mile border with Russia that also serves as an EU external border.
Moving on, Spain's parliament has voted to give Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez a new term in office after securing an alliance of political backers with an amnesty bill for Catalan separatists that has sparked protests across the country. The proposed amnesty bill for separatists in Spain that has sparked weeks of protests across the country. If the bill becomes law, it could clear up to 1,400 activists and politicians who have tried to have Catalonia secede from Spain.
A proposed amnesty bill for separatists in Spain that sparked weeks of protests across that country has now helped Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez secure another term in office. This was the moment that Parliament voted to keep Sanchez as the country's leader after he secured a political alliance between his Socialist Party and backers from smaller regional parties. The amnesty deal was part of those negotiations. If it becomes law, it could clear up to 1,400 activists and politicians who've tried to have the Catalonia region secede from Spain, peaking in 2017. Catalonia is the region that holds Barcelona. The bill's drawn protests and condemnation from conservative groups in Spain. The night before the parliament vote, the leader of the far-right Vox party, Santiago Abascal, was seen at one protest. He's saying the Spanish government is attacking the constitution and separation of powers and compares it to a coup. It's not yet clear when the bill would be brought to parliament for a vote or when it would take effect, if it's approved.
And like I promised before, climate change, it is certainly real, and it's important we talk about it every day. Next up, coming global climate stories your way. Iceland is preparing for a likely volcanic eruption amid growing underground lava flows and intensifying seismic activity. The country is on an alert after a number of earthquakes hit the Iceland nation, leading to giant cracks ripping through the ground.
Steam rising from giant cracks that have ripped through Grindavik, Iceland, could be seen from a Coast Guard helicopter on Friday. the country is preparing for what experts believe is a likely volcanic eruption on the Reykjanes Peninsula, amid growing underground lava flows and intensifying seismic activity.
From midnight to about 8 o'clock this morning, there were, I think, 600 new earthquakes. So the outlook is rather bleak, in my opinion.
Geophysicist Ari Trausti-Gudmundsson says the probability of an eruption is high.
People now wait in anxiety what is going to happen to the town. If the eruption really occurs, it could spare the town to a large extent. It could also, the lava flow, simply bury the town. So we don't know really which scenario is the most likely one.
Aerial views of the nearby Blue Lagoon, one of Iceland's most famous tourist attractions, show the geothermal spa completely deserted. Authorities have evacuated nearly 4,000 people from the area and were preparing to construct a large dike designed to divert lava flows around a geothermal power plant that provides hot water to the entire peninsula.
Check the news. I've been expecting it to start.
Evacuees wanting to go back into town to pick up belongings on Thursday had to queue at a roadblock before they were either driven into Grindavik in emergency vehicles or accompanied by emergency personnel.
It's like sitting in a very boring movie, but you're stuck there. You can't get out of it. It's unreal. It's hard to digest.
Other residents also said the waiting for the eruption was the worst part.
My house is okay, but it's on the red area, so it has collapsed. The earth has collapsed about 1 meter or something. We don't know if we're gonna have a home or what, because if it doesn't erupt, we don't know anything.
And moving on, Kenya's landfills are seeing a rise in plastic waste. Even as several countries are coming together to discuss a global treaty on plastic pollution, locals in Kenya are also contributing in the fight against plastic pollution. Our next report tells you about how a local company is switching to eco-friendly packaging, highlighting the growing trend of producers taking responsibility for product disposal as well.
This is Kenya's Dandora landfill, Nairobi's main dumping ground, and one of the largest landfills in the world. It's filled with single-use plastic, despite major steps taken in recent years by Kenya to reduce its environmental footprint. The country is urging for a strong, binding agreement on plastics, as international delegates gather there to discuss creating the first-ever treaty to contain plastic pollution. Locals say a shift in mindset is already happening. In 2017, Kenya imposed the world's toughest law against plastic bags. Kenyans producing, selling, or even using plastic bags risk imprisonment of up to 4 years or fines of $40,000. It recently expanded its waste management law, which now puts the responsibility on producers to properly dispose of their products instead of consumers. Kenyan dairy products firm Biofoods has embraced the new legislation. It's replaced its white PET polyethylene terephthalate milk bottles to clear ones. Rosalind Raru is head of sustainability at the company.
We've gotten very positive feedback from the recyclers because it's more recyclable than the previous white PET that we were using.
Dominic Kagwe's company is among those recyclers.
Clear PET is a better devil to live with because we can easily be able to fully recycle it and get it back, into the market, avoiding virgin products coming into the market.
According to the Environmental Investigation Agency, virgin plastics have reached unsustainable levels. It remains a significant environmental issue in Kenya. But Raru says the recent legislation is helping shift Kenyans' mindsets.
A couple of years ago, when we tried out this project, we didn't get as much positive feedback as we're getting from the consumers right now, which for us just proves that our customer base and the Kenyans in general have become more environment conscious.
Some news from the world of entertainment, where Spain's Sevilla gleamed with the brilliance of Latin music luminaries as the Latin Grammy Awards ventured beyond the borders of the United States for the first time. Our next report gives you an insight into the event, showcasing the finest artists in a dazzling display of talent and rhythm.
Latin Grammy? What is Latin Grammy? From Latin people of the Latin countries. We are Latinos. How wonderful that Spain has succeeded in this, that it is Seville, that we love Seville. And then the next year, it might be Buenos Aires, in Mexico City, in Bogota, in Caracas, in Lima.
Well, those of us from around here are very proud that the Latin Grammys are being held here. We are freaking out. We are super happy. I think we have a very important and very special culture to make people and artists from other countries discover, and I think they are also enjoying it very much.
Seville is the birthplace of flamenco. Imagine representing what you have inside you and that people like it and are enjoying it. I'm very proud.
Meanwhile, the first part of the final season of the Netflix show, The Crown, has released. The last season will revolve around the tragic death of Princess Diana. Elizabeth Debicki, who is portraying the character of Princess Diana, sees the role as a serious endeavor and acknowledges the cultural impact the show has had.
The physical reality of what it feels like to be in a car being pursued like that through the day and in the evening, the relentlessness of that, it was a profound sense of tragedy that lives in your body when you play that part of the story.
You okay?
I'm okay. It's just... And then there's this very real sense of responsibility that is both external but also something I put on myself, a pressure I put on myself, to do the best possible job. And in this case, I guess that ends up equating to being as authentic as you can.
And right down the center, guys, those smiles here.
Dashing around. Losing sight.
This is a cultural trauma that, you know, millions of people around the world experience and cried about and have done for 26 years. And so it has a certain sacredness, you know, and so you have to treat it with that dignity and respect, and in order to honor it. And we went on that journey together, kind of catching it and finding it.
And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Top Stories. Lots more continues right on the other side. Keep watching News9 Live. Hamas attacks Israel. Israel Defense Forces strike back at Hamas. As the war unfolds, watch the comprehensive coverage of the Israel war only on News9 Plus. To watch the full story, download the app now.
Smog over cities, toxins in the air, blackened lungs, a spike in lung cancer among non-smokers.
The air quality in Delhi is so horrible. Child born today would be smoking 15 to 20 cigarette equivalent from the very first breath of his life.
60% of India's population doesn't breathe clean air even as per the Indian national standards.
It has huge effect on the lungs. So for ourselves, for our children, our grandchildren, we should be 24/7